Hey everyone, what's going on? It's David Hamilton from socialexpression.net. And I'm here today with my friend and amazing, powerful charisma coach, amazing guy. Just love this guy, Marcus Oakey. And today we're going to be talking about how to be charismatic. I get a lot of questions from people. How can I be more expressive, less boring, more interesting, charismatic? And we have an expert today for you. So welcome, Marcus. How's it going?
Well, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, David. And I'm looking forward to cracking open my head and sharing all the goo inside, as it were.
I love it. Yeah, let's get gooey, man. Let's get gooey with all this.
That's what you got to do.
So I think I found you a few years ago, and I saw some videos of you being social out in public in the day, and I was really like, wow, yeah, this guy is really impressive, charismatic, fearless. You know, that's how I saw it. And I would love to personally hear and share with the audience what your journey has been, because you mentioned, you know, as we were talking a little bit before this, that you were shy too. And that's a huge part of my audience, that they're shy, socially anxious, lack confidence, things like that. So if you just want to tell your story and I'd love to hear it.
Well, you know, I should start by saying, here I am, some guy in a suit jacket talking to you right now. And I've been on the other side of this situation as well, where I've been in a social situation or a social environment, nervous, feeling really awkward, feeling like I don't want to be there, feeling like I had a huge mountain to climb to get this area of my life handled. So I didn't really want to suffer from social anxiety anymore, or social feelings of not being in social situations. And so when I first really decided to improve this area of my life, I was 22 years old or thereabouts. And do you know what? I just remember I'd be in a situation like a bar, and I could get to like an environment like a bar and I'd be okay, but talking to people, talking to strangers would fill me full of nerves. And if I could get into a conversation, usually what would happen is someone else would come into the conversation and I'd kind of be on the sidelines, like almost like watching a tennis match. So they started talking. I couldn't really get into that. And I knew something was wrong, but I didn't really know what was wrong. All I knew is it sucked not being confident. And around this time, I had the good fortune to meet a guy who was really confident, really charismatic. And this guy just walked into a room, would be the life and soul of the party, just lit the room up. And I remember thinking, I want what he has. I want to get some of that. So I decided to look at what he was doing. And that's a really good thing to improve your skills in anything, is to look at what somebody is doing who's better than you and just try and put yourself in their presence as much as possible. So as fate or good luck would have it, I got a job working in a cinema. And, you know, I was just like one of the popcorn monkeys, just serving popcorn every day. And this guy who was really charismatic got a job in the same cinema. And we work on like the popcorn stand. And I noticed there was a very key difference. Where I would work, I'd just start conversations, you know, with the clients being like, hi, what can I get you today? Can I take your order? Really boring conversation, but it was functional. On the other hand, this guy who was, you know, a few cash registers up would just be, can I help anyone? Like really over dramatic. People would walk up to him, ask him for a popcorn, and he'd just walk off and he'd go on his break. Now, the crazy thing is he never got fired. The boss of the cinema would just be like, oh, that's him. He can, you know, that's just him being him. I thought, how is it this guy is able to break all the rules where everyone else has to play by the rules? And again, it came back to charisma. So from that point on, I started to look at what he was doing differently and what everyone who I would consider was charismatic was doing differently. And I started just to crib what they were doing, try out their little techniques, the little nuances they would add to their conversation, and to see if they would fit on my shoulders. And some did and some didn't. And there's a very good lesson in there. It's not about making yourself like somebody else. It is about this quote unquote, like, just be yourself. It's about letting your true self come out. And techniques, strategies, what they do is they're really just a vehicle to give you some reference points, some new experiences. So trying the stuff out that other people do is great. It's great to emulate them. And sometimes some of it sticks and sometimes some of it doesn't, and that's fine. So that's basically what I did. I just looked at what everyone else was doing and started to make notes, started to be really methodical, and started to go and put it into action, which was a big leap in itself as well.
That's awesome, man. There's some huge nuggets there for me. When you said it's about letting your true self come out.
Right.
I so freaking agree with that. It's so how I work with people when I talk about natural confidence, about uncovering and discovering rather than building something, right? Building more on top, or building on top of negativity and not dealing with what's really getting in the way. And so what I'm curious about is, if someone is kind of like, well, isn't that inauthentic? And I know you got to hear this kind of stuff. That I hear it. If I hear it, you hear it. Isn't it authentic if I try to express myself? It doesn't feel like me. What do you say to them, and what do you think's going on there?
Okay, so I think, if we just take a step back to that phrase of just be yourself, which is the most misunderstood phrase of all social development ever.
Totally.
that phrase, be yourself, what I liken it to is most comfortable, the type of you, who you are with your most closest friends and family, when you're absolutely relaxed. There's a real error, I think, at the moment in self-development, where there's this idea that you have to get yourself into an emotional state to go and talk to people. Like, right, I'm going to fire myself up, I'm going to go and take action. When what I think is more powerful is just focus on being relaxed to go and talk to people. So,
big thumbs up. Give them the big thumbs up. Yeah.
And I'm myself. I'm guilty of doing that. I used to sort of psych myself up to go and talk to people, but really, it's more about just looking at it as a meditation. Looking at talking to people as a process of, when you start doing it, you may feel blocks in you. You may feel a block in your throat. You may feel like a weird feeling in your tummy. And what this allows you to do is examine what those blocks are. So I liken the technique of walking up to people and talking to them as just really a way of finding out where your current blocks are. Maybe you've got some pain trapped in from your past. Maybe there's something that happened just a couple of days ago, and it usually come and show itself through your body. And when you find out where one of those blocks is, you can sort of use that as a method of self-inquiry and think, well, what is that there for? You may not know the answer straight away, but usually if you have a good think about it, you can usually trace it back to something. The process of dealing with those blocks, those pains, when they happen, I would suggest is to focus on your breathing. That's where everything starts from, with charisma, self-improvement, and talking to people in general, I believe.
Cool. Thanks for that. Yeah. And it's, even though relaxation is a state, and it's like when we try to be relaxed, that kind of doesn't backfire, or doesn't always work so well. It's like, try to be present, just, it's like, and so I love the breathing approach that you're talking about. And so, and for me too, it's like, I might say slowing down, or internally, if we slow it down and, depending on what our thoughts are doing, we can tie that to breathing. That lets that true, natural, relaxed self come out without trying. And that's a process of elimination in many ways. And for me, what you said about the block, how I've kind of come to look at it is, what's the lesson I can learn here? It's giving me this resistance to learn something, to overcome it, but not really overcome it, more like to learn. And it's just a fascinating process, and there's no right way to do it that I've seen. We all have our own ways. Yeah. So when it comes to being charismatic, and we're talking some about this, confidence, charisma, how is it, so, I mean, you're already talking about it, I guess, it's about bringing out your true self and what that means. How do you define charisma? Is it that? Is there more to it?
Well, when I first started on this journey, I found it really difficult to define what charisma was. I knew it when I saw it, but I couldn't really put it into words either. And that's been a problem a lot of academics have had, and a lot of people in self-improvement have had. But the definition I really like, my partner came up with, And it's this. Charisma is the ability to evoke emotions in others whilst making them feel comfortable as you do.
That's great. I love that. That's a quotable. That's definitely a quotable. Um, and so when someone asks, they come to you, you get an email, they ask you a question in a program, and they're like, how can I be more charismatic? Like right now, what can I start to do? Or, is there a place that you start? Is it different for everyone? What do you say? What's something you might say to them?
Right. Well, that's a great question. That's a question a lot of my clients have. If we look at that definition, it's the ability to evoke emotions in others. So in other words, if we're making somebody else feel an emotion when we're talking to them, that's charisma. There's a debate that kind of rages on whether people are born with it, whether they can learn from it. Either way, the ability to create that spark in somebody, if it's temporary or if you're doing it long term, that's what you want to focus on. The easiest, fastest way to do that, if you want somebody to feel an emotion, is for you to feel the emotion yourself first, to go first. So you'll find if you want to make people feel happy, your job is to feel happy first. Now, there's different facets of charisma. The most important is your belief. And whenever you create a new belief in life, if you say, for example, I'm charismatic, some people will agree with you, and some people will disagree with you, and some people won't have an idea of it. Your job, when you have the belief, is to live and breathe it. So let's say that you want to make other people feel happy. Well, the first thing is to feel happy yourself. And to do that, we need to get into a positive mind space. Now, there's different levels of that. Surface level is the first thing we can do is look at the language we're using in our mind. And a very good thing to do is to take a rubber band, an elastic band, and put it over your wrist. Try and go 7 days without having a single negative thought. You'll find that whenever you're thinking, there's that little creepy thought comes in and says like, hey, don't do that, or nah, you shouldn't do it. Whenever you have that negative thought, ping the elastic band. As I said, your goal is to go 7 days without having a single negative thought. I'd like to invite anyone listening to have a go at that and see what effect that has on their lives, just about how they feel about themselves and what they're projecting. As you get deeper with mind control, like self-discipline and of the mind, then it comes to a point where you want to turn off the internal voice completely. That's a little bit further down the line. But just starting off and getting your mind to be your best friend is really, really important.
Cool. I love that. It is about mind control. I use the term mind state, but same thing. Because our state of mind has a huge impact on how relaxed we are and stuff and how all that works. And so one thing I'm noticing about the definition is what I hear too is it's not only the ability to evoke emotions in somebody else, but actually positive emotions for the most part. I know, because if somebody's really, really negative, I'm imagining that they're going to be, people aren't going to really want to be around. People want to be around people that feel good because people want to feel good. Or is there something I'm missing in that it actually isn't positive per se emotions more? And not that there aren't any negative emotions or, if we make fun of somebody and they feel a little embarrassed that whatever, joking around, like, no, it's still from love. But is the positivity, it seems like a big part of it.
Positivity is really important when you're starting out. I liken it to training wheels. So leaving people better off than you find them is going to take you leaps and bounds ahead of everyone else. And if you want an example of that, if you're just happy and smiley, you may see people and they may react to you really negatively. You may go, oh, hi, have a great day today. And they're just like, what are you doing? Why are you looking at me like that? Your job is to hold space, because what they're doing, whether they realize it or not, is they're testing your belief. They're sort of saying, he seems like he's happy. Let's see if he is. Now, if you can take those little impacts and still be centered and still be strong and come from a place of happiness, you'll find that your happiness, your mental strength in yourself grows and becomes more solid. But if you look throughout history, there's charismatic people who were positive. There's negative charismatic people in history. You know, we only have to mention the name Rasputin, for example, who was really charismatic, but didn't use his ability to manipulate emotion in a good way. Manipulate is probably not the most PC sounding word, but bend and steer emotion is probably a better way of saying that. Now, if you look at a Jane Austen novel, we have the, was it Pride and Prejudice with Mr. Darcy. Mr. Darcy was a complete bastard, right, in the novels. And the heroine of the novels is just infatuated with him. But he's making her feel all these negative emotions, like she's, ah, damn that man. So there is, there's value in understanding the dark side as well as the light side. And then what I mean by this is, and how we can use this straight away, is my girlfriend asked me recently to return some makeup she bought. She bought this little pot of makeup for like $150, which is like crazy money. So she bought it, undid the little seal, and thought, hang on a minute, why did I spend this much money? I could spend $20 and get the same stuff. So she's like, okay, I'm going to take it back. She couldn't return it to the store though because the seal on the makeup is broken. So that's when I get the phone call. Marcus, could you, like, you know, you're good at this sort of thing. Could you kind of take this makeup back for me? I'm like, did you open it? She's like, yes. I'm like, ah! So I took the little makeup pot, right? And I walked to the store. And it's this like a little boutique ladies makeup store. And rather than think, how am I going to persuade the other person to take the makeup back? I think, let's see what fun we can have it. So I open the door, I walk in, and there's a stern older woman looking at me at the cash register. And she's like, because, you know, I'm a guy in this women's store with makeup bag as well. And the normal conversation there, the logical conversation would have been, can I help you today? Hi, I'm here to return this, please. That would have been the normal conversation. So instead, I use some negative emotion. I add a bit of tension into the conversation. And I walk up and say, I have a confession to make. And I pause. And this brings it on edge a little bit, right? And I say, most men who come into makeup stores secretly wear makeup for the weekend. But not me. I'd just like to return it, please. She returned the item, didn't question it. She was laughing, she returned the item, and I walked out. So I built tension into the conversation, then released it. So it's useful to understand that positivity is, yes, really, really important. Its counterpart can be useful too, but when you're starting out, just focus on making people feel better than when they met you.
Dude, I'm so blown away by you right now. Okay. God, that's so amazing. And to me, it's because I feel the same way. And when we talk about charismatic power, life power, even spiritual power, ooh, getting woo, is, and it's everywhere. And I see it, to use Star Wars, you can be a Jedi, you can be a Sith. You're both powerful. And as we go on the path and you get more powerful, it's actually easy to, I just learned this the other day, it's easy to jump back and forth. So you got to be more careful. Right. Now, you have to know the dark to know the light, because you can't know light and vice versa. So it's like, and you can use it, but overall, if you don't end up on the positive spectrum, as it ends, you know, as you said, leave people better than they were, no matter whether you go positive or negative throughout it, then you're going to the dark side. And that's, it's actually, there's no judgment around that. It's just kind of the way it works. Right. So how do you want it to be? And I suggest being a Jedi, not a Sith, but
I would agree. You know, I think when you come from a place of no power and suddenly you're granted that kind of power, there's the, you know, the wanting to play a little bit. And that's okay. It's how we learn. I think with these skills and developing the ability to, you know, to connect with people, making them feel a range of emotions is really important. If you think about your closest friends, these are the people that you've laughed with, you've had great times with. They're also the people you've had arguments with. You know, you maybe even cried with or shouted at. So you've had that, almost like piano keys, you pressed all these different keys down of emotion with them. You've got a very big emotional range with them. People you've just met, you probably only felt one emotion, if at all, right? So the more emotions you can feel with somebody, good and bad, the better, the closer you're going to be. That's why when you go on a date with somebody, if you go to a fun fair you know, you've got the fear of the roller coaster and the happiness of winning I don't know, a goldfish or something. You've got that roller coaster of emotions going on, and that's what connects people. So yeah, it's a good thing to be aware of.
Yeah, absolutely. And so one thing I'm wondering about is there a kind of mindset thing that people need to have so that they don't stray to the dark side, but go on the light side internally? You know, is there something, or do you, maybe you don't work on that level, but for me, it's kind of occurring, well, you know, make sure that you're coming from love, make sure you're coming from acceptance, make sure, you know, we hear a lot of this stuff, and if not, cool, but I'm just wondering if there's some piece that you work with people on, because yeah, you can go either way, but I really suggest you go to the light side. So here's a good baseline so that you don't get lost and go, you know, too negative or be a Rasputin out in the world.
Exactly. Well, you know, I completely agree. One thing I've learned, I've worked with experts all around the world, and the further all of them get onto their journeys, the more they go from learning technique to becoming more spiritual. It's kind of like a natural evolution, because really it's not what's going on in the external world. It's really about your ability to control your mindset through self-discipline. And that journey usually leads people to the path of spirituality, which is where those tools exist. With regards to, you know, staying on track, well, I think if you're doing the negative stuff enough, you'll find it kind of self-fulfilling. You'll find you won't make loads of friends. You'll find that your friends find you really annoying and all sorts of stuff. So the system kind of keeps itself in check in that respect. That being said, really good thing to do. Something that I train all my clients is, you are your own best teacher. What I mean by that is the learning that you get, the learning that really sticks in your mind, happens after you take action. You know, action is everything. Going out, creating opportunity in the world, creating a ripple in the world. That is where all magic lies. That is the philosopher's stone. Now, most people waste that opportunity. They do great things. They summon the courage. They go and take action. But what happens afterwards is they don't use that as an opportunity to teach themselves, to learn from that. So I always go through 3 questions. The first is, every time I take action, I always ask myself, what did I do well? What did I do well? Really think about that. The next question I ask myself is, how do I know I did well? So let's say, for example, the example I used with the makeup shop. What did I do well? Well, I added some tension to the conversation and I released it. How do I know I did that well? Because the lady laughed. There's the evidence. And the third question I ask is, if I could do that again, what would I do differently to improve the result for both me and that other person? Now, the first time you do that takes a while. First time I did it, took me an hour to go through those 3 questions. And I was itching to learn. I was itching to talk to people, but I sat down and I thought, what were the answers to those 3 questions? The lessons I got from that one experience stayed with me even now. And so I always do it. The more you do it, the quicker you get at it, to the point where you can have a conversation with somebody and it's done in a heartbeat. But it keeps you on track. It stops you becoming delusional with your learning, and it also keeps you focused on improvement. So hopefully that will help.
That's awesome, man. And maybe I missed it. Do you call those 3 questions anything, like the 3 questions for learning or the 3 questions for?
I call it the David Hamilton strategy. It doesn't have a name until now.
Okay, but they're just 3 questions after someone's done to really integrate.
Yeah, there's more questions you can ask, but those 3 are really good ones, and they're really about self-reflection.
That's awesome.
Thank you. That developed actually because I was seeing a lot of guys going out trying to improve their conversation skills, and they would go chat to somebody, and maybe they get a good result, and then think, right, on to the next. Then go and talk to somebody else, get a bad result, on to the next. They had this mindset of, doesn't matter, on to the next, on to the next. They were afraid of getting hurt. And so they were creating a barrier, like a shield, to not get hurt. Like, let's just get on to the next. They were psyching themselves up, not being relaxed, and they were missing the learning. And so I would meet these guys like maybe 2 or 3 years later, and they're still doing the same thing. They hadn't progressed because they weren't learning. They weren't maximizing their moment for learning, which is after you take action. As soon as you take action, you want to be patting your own back, thinking, well done me. Now, how do I know I did well? What can I do better next time? And that will keep you on course.
That's powerful, powerful process. And how I also see it is, you know, in the old pickup world, which I did many years past, they called it plowing. Just plow through.
Right.
And then you'll get results by numbers, but you won't. It's just kind of like this line versus going exponential.
Right.
You've got to take a look at how and be conscious. And how did I do well to really see and integrate that? And also, how could I improve? And I liked it how you say that. You say, for me and the other person, which is win-win.
Right. Yeah, that's very
It's a very positive way to say, how do I improve, instead of what could I do better and what did I do wrong, which is.
You'll always find something you did wrong if you look for it. I screw up every conversation I have. You know, there's always mistakes. Look at all the ums and ers I've had in this conversation already, you know, but if I focus on that, as you say, it's like just flagellating yourself, like, no. But if I focus in on my wins, then that's how you get 100% success.
Yeah, that's great. And the way I also it creates a different vibe that we just kind of resonate in, that we go through life in. If we are more positive with ourselves, we just become more positive. That becomes our default state rather than wavering or real negative. And I have to like pull myself out and then I get positive. But each time I've got to like pull out of this well of negativity because I'm just going through life, wham, 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 everywhere. Yeah. And so have you, you know, you mentioned technique before. I'm curious about this. Do you use a lot of techniques when you work with people? Do you use more conceptual, I don't want to say conceptual, or process things, not just techniques, you know, when you work with people in your workshops and things like that? It sounds like, you know, because what you said really stuck with me too. It becomes more spiritual. That's how it's been for me. The word spiritual, even 2 years ago, I'd have been like, what?
Yeah. I know.
But now it's in all spiritual means to me is what's more true and real, like getting to what's really going on. It's not necessarily this woo-woo thing, although sometimes it gets that way. So yeah, what's your kind of approach, if that makes sense, that question, techniques, strategies, or concepts, ideas?
Well, I take the attitude of, if my clients are still using the techniques that I taught them, 6 months from now, I've screwed up. So techniques provide a training system, the training wheels to try new things out, to get new experiences, to get new reference points, to get new opportunities to learn that they wouldn't have necessarily had. An example of that is, let's say on the course, we see somebody in a bookshop. They may not necessarily go and talk to that person in the bookshop, but through the course, we give them the tools of just being able to walk up, create a little emotional spike by adding tension and releasing it. So pretty much ensuring that the conversation is going to start off in the most strongest, most positive way anyway. And then they'll go through that process, they'll meet and connect with that person, they come away and they'll learn what they did well, what they can improve on next time. And in doing that, that technique has allowed them that opportunity. But eventually, if you do a technique enough times, it just gets boring. Like if you just say the same thing to enough people, oh my, that's going to get really tiring. So very early on, we, rather than looking at the techniques themselves, we look at the principles that make techniques useful. So if you learn a joke, that might work in one country, but if you learn what makes a joke funny, then you can invent your own jokes. So that's what it's about, learning those building blocks. And then eventually getting yourself to the point where you're reassembling those building blocks in any way you want that best explain and best express your personality. A lot of people think that I'm walking into conversations, you know, chatting to people and, you know, just exploding emotions everywhere. And I do, but I don't do it all the time. I really love being my old introverted self as well. I think there's these two labels, introvert and extrovert. And I believe they're both wrong. They're both just a description of how you feel at that time. But to identify your personality as one or the other, you know, any introvert can be extroverted. Any extrovert can be introverted. What it's about having a balance between both and not identifying with those labels themselves. So you getting to the stage where you're your best teacher, when you're at that stage, then the techniques fall away. Then instead of becoming a science, it just becomes an art. You're just going in and creating opportunities where none existed before. You're creating these really beautiful moments, these magic moments when you talk to people. you might not know where the conversation's going to go, but before that might have been scary. At that point, it becomes really exciting. Now it becomes an adventure.
Amazing. I love it. I'm blown away. I'm sitting here going, I love your philosophy here, and I so agree. It reminds me of martial arts technique. And when we get to being in the flow and fluid and it's integrated, it's just, if you've been using these techniques and they're still thinking about them as techniques, you haven't grown and something's going on, and we need to take a look and we need to adjust that.
Right.
Correct.
You know, the thing that connects the master to the student in martial arts, in this field that we're talking about now, is the fundamentals, is the concepts that underpin everything. So I'll give you an example of one of those. The big mistake a lot of people make when they start a conversation is they don't get the other person's attention. They just start talking. Now, of course, you can develop your skill to the point where you can just start talking, and that's fine. So, you almost have to learn the rules before you break them. So there's different ways to get another person's attention. You can say, hey, you can talk loud, you can stand in their personal space. How we know we've got their attention is when their eyes meet ours. Now, the first thing I'll teach people is, well, the first thing I explain is, until you have that eye contact, don't say anything else. Now you can say hi to get the attention. You can say hi. If they don't hear you, you've not lost any lives. Imagine a video game, right? It's not game over. Well, again, what most people do is they say, oh, hi, I just saw you from over there and I just have to start talking to you. They don't have the attention yet. So it comes across as very try-hard. So the beginner learns to get the attention. The intermediate learns to break the rules and just start talking anyway, and it'd be fine. Then the expert learns, what is the least amount of effort it takes for me to get the attention now? So maybe the least amount of effort is a wave, but instead of waving, what about if I just look at them? Instead of looking at them, what about if I just do it with eye contact? And so then it becomes all about stripping away, making it more and more simple. And so that's what it all comes down to. Those fundamentals, they run through everything. So mastering the fundamentals, yeah, I'm a white belt still. I'm still the eternal student. I only become an expert when I die.
Right, yeah.
Many years from now.
I'm trying to see where I fit on your scale, man. I mean, the other night I was at the end of the intensive with a client. There was some girl sitting next to us, and I just looked over. So I think I'm intermediate in that situation. I just said, hey, what are you guys ordering? And they didn't have eye contact yet, but I just said, hey. And I used to use this term. I haven't used it. You just got to stick it. You just go, bam.
Yep.
And you have to hold it, because if you're like, hey, what are you guys ordering? It's like they'll probably look over and go, and it's nothing about, it's just, that's when people get with the shyness, social anxiety. Oh, it's about me, what I do wrong. So I love that, the baby step of hi, you haven't lost anything for somebody like that. But as you get more advanced, it's like you just say what you're going to say. You're like, okay, you're going to answer. But then even more advanced, you're just like, whew, you got the energy going with eye contact. I like that, man. I got to work on that.
As long as it's fun, I think the quickest way to learn is to make it fun. And I think a big element missing from a lot of training that I see is play, just enjoyment.
Dude, that's been a word that I've been using for myself and with clients a lot lately. Enjoy, which I make up, but in the Latin Romance language is to be in, so to be enjoy. So, it's kind of like, when we're enjoying something, a lot of times I think we make, I'm enjoying the thing, but actually we are in joy. And that is what radiates out. And people, the effects of that alone, that's the vibe thing when you walk into a room and you're enjoying your life and enjoying whatever you're doing and enjoying talking to people, enjoying getting a drink, enjoying going to the bathroom in the bar on the way, that radiates out. It's so attractive.
Absolutely. And, I'm listening to you describing that, like about enjoy. I'm like, oh, I wish I could steal that. That's really good. I love that. I love that whole idea of just being in the moment, just taking whatever comes into your little sphere and just adding to it, playing with it. Kids do this. Kids kids have this state of joy. Kids are great teachers in that respect, because, you know, a kid's tired, he just lies and stretches out on the floor, or sees a tree, like she goes and climbs up it. Like, but adults, you know, when we're kids, we're like, oh, I can't wait till I'm tall so I can do this all the time. But when we do become adults, we just don't. We forget how to play. I believe that happens because we go from a playful mindset as a child, which is a learning mindset, to a logical mindset. And that happens through education. You know, if we're building the house I'm in, and you know, one builder looks at another and says, how many bricks do we need? And the builder gives a playful answer and says, 10 million. Like, this house is either not going to be built or it's going to go massively over budget. So logical thinking has a really important place in the world, with work and problem solving, but not so much in expressing ourselves. It's not very good for allowing us to connect with people. We tend to hang around with people who make us feel emotions.
Yeah, I love that. And another way that when I talk about this stuff sometimes and teach it is being social is it's intuitive more than it is intellectual. And one of my mentors once said to me, the intellect is useful and great, but it's not a good master.
Right.
Our heart, our intuition, our joy, our vibe, you know, that's the master, and the other's, you know, kind of the slave. I don't know if I really like that metaphor in that way, but we're very conditioned to go logical, rational. We must make everything fit into a box and all this. And what we tend to see is people's lives don't turn out so great. They don't enjoy their lives, or have the lives they want when they're constantly living through the intellect. And those are, of course, I'm trying to be social and blah, 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 blah. It's like put it into this. Not that there aren't stepwise things, because obviously we start somewhere, but to always see it as stepwise and linear and intellectual and rational keeps us more like this instead of going up the exponential curve, which I think it can happen very quickly.
Absolutely. I think, you know, the logical mind is great. For example, when we're doing those 3 questions after we take action, that's when your logical mind, that's when the intellect is really going to come into its own. You know, setting a goal of where you want to be conversationally or where you want to be socially. Again, that's the intellect doing a great job there. But most people get the intellect, as you're saying, and the emotions mixed up. They're intellectual before they start the conversation. Typically, what do I say? They're emotional afterwards. Oh, I screwed up. Where if you're emotional first, let's just see what happens. And then you're intellectual afterwards. Let's see how I can improve that. Then you'll find a big change happens.
Awesome. That's great. I love that. Would you mind sharing a success story of a client that you worked with that really, you know, whatever one you want to share that occurs to you, if they're really shy and then they became really confident, or they did it really quickly, or, you know, whatever, somebody that sticks out in your mind?
Yeah. Well, my most recent client is a guy called Alex from Toronto. And Alex was suffering from social anxiety. He was also very shy, very awkward in social situations. And he took the step. He flew out to London to come and work with me and my team here. And we had him for 3 days. And we were, it's not an easy course. We really throw you in, but we're with you every step of the way. We're holding your hand, working with you very closely. So Alex started off very brave, and he thought, right, I'm going to make the best of this. And he almost was starting conversations off over the top, being really playful, like coming and going, hey, how's it going? And this was great. It was getting him used to expressing himself. But what we noticed very quickly is what he needed to do was actually dial that back. In his mind, being really charismatic was being the life and soul of the party. But his personality was slightly mismatched to that. And so we were chatting to him, we were discussing, you know, what the next steps forward. And I was really focused on getting him just to hold space, just to be present, which almost seems like, what? That, you know, that's not being absolutely, you know, extroverted. That's just being really, again, really relaxed. So he made those changes. He focused on being really relaxed instead. And what he found was all the gains he'd made, all the colorful parts of his personality didn't get lost. They still were there, but they were more subtle, more nuanced. So he returned to Canada, resumed his job, and it's great. I'm getting updates from him every day. And in a nutshell, he met a girlfriend, so he's got a girlfriend now, which is great. He got promoted at work. He works with all the managers in this huge company he works in. I'm not allowed to say its name, but he runs events and seminars for them. People, when they're walking through the office, ask him if, do you want a cookie? Do you want a cake? Do you want a cup of tea? They invite him to birthday parties. They invite him out now. He's got a social life. So it's completely transformed his life. And he's done amazingly well. The most important thing is he took action and he was mindful of what he was doing afterwards. So that's a really, really happy story. It's happening right now. I'm really keen to see where it unfolds even further. But that's just the one off the top of my head right now.
Yay, Alex. Yay, Marcus. And brilliant coaching as another coach. I love hearing that and what you did. You really, and that's where it sounds like you really work with people accustomed to their situation despite your training. Training's important, and then getting in there and making the adjustments. So brilliant. Yeah,
absolutely. The aftercare is everything.
Sorry, say that again.
The aftercare is everything.
Right. Awesome. So I think we're coming to an end here just for time's sake. Just an amazing interview. Just I'm blown away, but
thank you.
By the learning I'm feeling, and I know people will get so much out of it. And I'm so glad to be introducing my community and the people on my lists and channels and blah, 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 all that stuff. So where can they find more out about you? Give the URLs and also any programs that you might want people to know about coming up.
Oh, great. Well, thank you. Well, if you'd like to find out more about me, you can go to yourcharismacoach.com. And on that website, you'll be able to download a free ebook on how to talk to anyone without fear of rejection. It's a great book. It's helped a lot of people out. And if you're really super enthusiastic and charged, we also run trainings every now and then, which are live trainings in London and in different parts of the world as well. Our next one will be in London. And that's when we take you out and train you every step of the way. Completely bespoke coaching and life transforming. So yeah, yourcharismacoach.com, head over there and I'll see you and give you lots of hugs. I may be lying about the hugs, but.
Awesome. And I'll make sure I'll put the links below the video so everybody can click in, probably in the video, or my virtual assistant do it because easier. So great to have you, man. So honored with your wisdom and knowledge, and I just love who you are and what you're doing and helping people with in the world. So yeah, until next time, everyone, we are complete. So take care. Bye-bye. Bye, Marcus.
See you later, guys. Thanks for listening. Really enjoyed it.
Hey, if you like this video and want more tips and strategies on how to overcome your shyness, social anxiety, self-doubt, and really build the confidence in your social skills, conversational skills as much as you can, up to the best you can be, so you can have the career success, the social circles and friends, the dating life that you want, all that and more, subscribe to the Social Expression channel by clicking on the subscribe button, and check out the other videos here that are on offer. This channel is all about helping you be the best guy that you can, like I've done for myself, and I really want you guys to succeed. So keep watching.